What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Nintendo Land. We might have gotten some new information and kind of new details on what could happen for the end of 2022. Yes, right now we know we're kind of not sure what the holiday game is going to be. We know Splatoon is in September and we know the Pokemon games are coming out in November. But there has got to be some other type of game. We've already talked about this. There's got to be an October game and maybe even a smaller December game. Well, it looks like we might actually know what these titles are going to be. With all the transitioning and shifting of titles from Nintendo, we know very little. And I'm sure we're going to get lots of information here at E3 in about a month. Yes, I know E3 is not a thing, but Nintendo's little press conference they're probably going to have in June, which we can already expect. But with that said, we might have a leak and a little bit of a rumor of what could happen at the end of this year. Now, of course, before we get started, like always, please take this all with a grain of salt. We don't know anything yet, and of course, until it comes out of Nintendo's mouth, then we can't take anything for gospel. So right now, let's just say that this is a possibility, and let's just leave it at that, straight up. But of course, this comes on Twitter from Jeff Grubb. I would not go as far to say as Jeff Grubb being an insider. He's definitely had some inside information in the past, and lots of this could just be what he's speculating, but he goes on to say they want to have a Zelda thing every year. They've been holding on to this. Why wouldn't they just put it out this year? And if they don't put this out or some other Zelda thing this year instead of just waiting for Breath of the Wild 2, I just will not understand. I do think this game, as much as it is a joke in the Mega 64 video, I do believe it does actually come out in October. Now, this is actually referring to Zelda ports that they were talking about. Jeff Grubb was actually talking about how the fact that Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD could very well come to the Switch, and that he's expecting that to come in October. He also states that the long-rumored Metroid Prime remaster could very well come in November alongside the Pokemon games, which would then put Advance Wars 1+2 in the December time slot. So let's back it up and talk about all these individually. We have been talking about this Zelda collection for a while now. We've been talking about how it just kind of makes sense, and we were really expecting Nintendo to release this last year for the anniversary, but they didn't. All we got was Skyward Sword HD. But lots of the leaks and rumors that I've seen on Twitter was about a bunch of people just talking about, yes, these are still a thing and they're just saving them just in case there's a problem with Breath of the Wild. Well, technically, there is. Breath of the Wild 2 has got delayed to next year, which leaves this year still empty with no Zelda games. And just like Jeff Grubb stated, it seems like Nintendo does have a new Zelda game of some sorts every single year. Whether it's a remaster, a port, anything like that, there's always a Zelda game, it seems like, every single year. You don't really want to miss a year without Zelda, and the same goes for Mario. There's always a Mario spin-off as well. Mario and Zelda are at the top of Nintendo's chart there, and you could even say the same for Pokemon. That's why there's a Pokemon game every single year, and I still think that's the truth with Zelda. I do actually believe this is the case. I think we are going to get some ports of these games, and this actually sounds like a reasonable time slot for this. So they think it's going to be the big October game, which would actually slate this as the holiday release, or at least one of the holiday releases. It's also one of the very few Wii U games that haven't been ported over yet, so I definitely see this happening as well. They did it for Mario with all the past 3D Mario games. They could definitely do it with these last two Zelda games. Now, how does that pack come? I think we was all expecting a 3-pack including Skyward Sword, but it might just be a duo pack, especially considering the fact that these games are massive compared to something like Mario or something like that. So I can definitely just, I would love just a simple duo pack of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. I think that's more than enough. We already got Skyward Sword, my favorite, so let's get my other two favorites, of course, being Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. This makes sense to me. The second thing we have to talk about is obviously the Metroid Prime remake. This is another rumor that's been going on for a while that we're going to get like a Metroid Prime trilogy, but then rumors started to come out that maybe the first game at least would be remastered all the way from the ground up, and that the next two games would kind of come as like HD ports, kind of like what we got with Skyward Sword. But I don't know what's even going on with Metroid. But I'm going to actually say, I don't know if I believe this one. This is supposed to be coming alongside Pokemon in November. It does kind of make sense as well, for eventually us to get something like this before Metroid Prime 4, since Metroid Prime has been, so old now. Like, lots of people probably haven't even played the games, and this is a good way to get people started before Prime 4 comes out. And I think we are coming, closer to that release date of Prime 4, or at least closer to a reveal of the game, and it would make sense to just kind of get some of these old Prime games out. But to me, I don't know if they're going to actually have two different types of ports actually coming to the Switch for a holiday season. I feel like there's still one game that's kind of new, kind of a new adventure, whether it's a new 3D Donkey Kong, a new 3D Mario game. It's got to be something along those lines, in my opinion. I just feel like it's missing that big holiday, vibe. These are great games, don't get me wrong. I love these games to death, and of course I'm going to buy them and play them again, but to have two, pretty much two games that are really older games coming back again for your holiday title, I don't know. You guys let me know what you think about that. I believe the Zelda thing a lot more than Metroid. I think Metroid's still going to take the backseat for a while. I think we could get a Metroid remake or something at the beginning of next year or something like that. I still think it's a little too early for that, though. And then obviously Advanced Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp coming in December also just really kind of makes sense. I don't know when this game would drop. I also thought that maybe it could drop sooner than we think. I thought maybe at E3, maybe they'd just slide that in now since they had to obviously delay it. But maybe they do push it back all the way to the end of the year out of just respect. I get that. It just really found itself in a difficult situation, but I think December is also a really good time slot. There's never really anything coming out in December, and it's a nice little game to have before the year is over, and I could definitely see them throwing it in there. Like I said, we never really don't have any, December games. I think the only things I can remember of recent years in December was Xenoblade 2 in 2017, and then obviously Smash the year after that. But yeah, December normally doesn't have any games. I can see this coming out like the first week of December. Yeah, maybe it's just me wishful thinking, but I just don't know how I feel about two ports, or really two remakes or remasters or whatever you want to call them, coming to the Switch for the holiday season. I think one of them would work out fine. I just don't see Nintendo doing both of them. But I could be wrong, who knows? These are really good games, and, I would love it regardless. But I still think there's going to be another big game that we just don't have a clue about right now. Whether it's, like I said, a big 3D Mario or Donkey Kong, something along those lines, I think we could very well get at the end of this year still. I think there's still time for that announcement, but we're obviously going to have to wait and see from the big end themselves. But of course, like always, let me know in the comments down below what you think. Do you think we could get a brand new game like a Mario or Donkey Kong from the ground up made, or is it going to be kind of like port season as we get into the end of the year, or remake season as we get into the end of the year? But let me know what you guys think. Also, if you guys have any predictions on what Nintendo could even announce at this year's presentation in June, give me your predictions, things that you think they could talk about, maybe even for the year afterwards. Maybe they could bring up more information on Breath of the Wild 2, or maybe even announce the next Mario game. That's the least I'm hoping that they do. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's news update, please make sure you leave a like and subscribe to stay up to date on all things Nintendo all the time. And like always, I'll see you all on the next one. See you guys.